Kakadosh, Boker Or, Masechet Sanhedrin, Daf Yomi, Daf Kaf Amud Aleph. We're starting in the Mishnah in the middle of the page over there. Okay, Mishnah Kaf Amud Aleph 28:1. Met lo met. Right now, if one of the people, one of the family members of the king dies, he does not leave the palace. Rabbi Yehuda says, if he does, he's allowed to. That's what David HaMelech did. David HaMelech went after the coffin of Avner. Says the pasuk, the king David went after the mitah. They said, the only reason why he did that was not really be'emet because he was supposed to, right? It was just because of Shalom Malchut, meaning he didn't want to show that Kilu, that he was the one that caused the death of Avner Bener. Remember, it was Avner, right? It was killed by Yoav. So he didn't want to show that Kilu, that, he was the one that caused it. So therefore, he just did it for Shalom Malchut, but not be'emet that he did it. When they're going to come and do Seudat Avra'ah, everybody's going to be on the floor, and he's going to be on like a little stool. We said in the Gemara, we learned in the Braita, if the minhag is that women go after the coffin, so they go out. If it's in front of the coffin, they also go out. They always go out in front of it. So it's pashut that David HaMelech was going between the men, not between the women. So therefore we learn from here that it's going to be a minhag kasher. The women were going to go before, and then the men are going to go afterwards. Okay, so again, depends on the minhagim. Okay, so Amrulo, they said, what are you talking about? We thought that he only went out to be mefayes etam. By the way, in a lot of places, the minhag was that women don't go out at all. For example, in a lot of places in Morocco or Gibraltar or other, women would not go after they wouldn't go bichlal, or they could go to the bet amnim, but they wouldn't go after the coffin. Meaning like a funeral was only men, right? It was not something. Okay, but some people, women would not go at all. Like they would never go. They would go afterwards to the cemetery whenever they want, but not yes. And then they're women, right? But here it was like the women wouldn't go at all sometimes. So he says that he would go lefayes etam and he paisu. Then what? He would go between the women. Meaning he wanted to make sure that everyone understood that he didn't want to kill him. Meaning David was not the one that killed Avner. He didn't want him to be killed. Okay? Darash Rava expanded. My dictate was even in Pasuk, Vayavo chol ha'am le'avrot David. Everyone came to le'avrot David. K'tiv la'achrot u'karinan le'avrot. So it's a kri uktiv. It says, right, we read it, it's written la'achrot, which is karet, like to kill, to cut off. And we read le'avrot. But chila, at the beginning, they wanted to kill David because they thought that he was the one that commanded that he should be killed. Ulvasov, but at the end, le'avroto, to do a Seudat Avra'ah, because really, be'emet, he did not want to kill Avner. Amar of Yudam Rav says of Yudam Rav, why was Avner punished then? Why was he killed in the hands of Yoav? Because when he went to kill the city of Nov, Ira Kohanim, he should have rebuked Shaul, and he didn't rebuke. So since he didn't rebuke Shaul when he went out to kill the city of the Kohanim, so therefore he was punished and he was also killed. That's the first shita. Rabbi Yitzchak says, no, he did actually come and he was mochen Shaul, but he didn't listen to him. But they both learn from the same pasuk. Right? So David HaMelech came and he was doing a kina on Avner. He says what? Just like Naval dies, so too Avner. Right? They weren't tied in shalshalot and in chains. And they weren't coming put in chains. Why didn't you come and you didn't rebuke? So therefore you're going to fall in front of Bnei Avla. But according to Mandamar that he did rebuke, and he wasn't answered, it's a question. What, he should die? He says what? He says machita. So why is it the be'emet that he's going to fall like Bnei Avla? So Mandamar micha, so 1 second. But according to that, if he gave a mecha, so why was he punished? If he rebuked Shaul and he told Shaul, don't kill Nov Ira Kohanim, so why was he punished? My time Yanash. Amar Rav Nachman, Rabbi Yitzchak says, Shaha Malchut Bet David Shetena Shanim. He stopped the Malchut Bet David 2.5 years because he was the one that put Ishboshet right instead of Shaul as the king. So because of that, the Malchut Bet David stopped for 2.5 years, right? And therefore, since he was one that stopped it for 2.5 years from David HaMelech becoming king, that's why he was killed. That means he did give him mecha. He rebuked Shaul and he told Shaul, don't kill Novi Kohanim. He wasn't answered. Shaul didn't pay attention to him. But the fact that he stopped Malchut Bet David from coming for 2.5 years, that's why he was punished and he was killed. Okay, next. We said that when you're going to come, you're going to give havra'ah to the king. My dargash. What do we say? We said everyone sits on the floor, and the king is going to be on a dargash. What's a dargash? Amarula Ula says arsa dagada. It says a mitah shel mazal. That means they used to have a minhag. They used to put a mitah and a shulchan as a siman tov, mazal tov. Meaning nobody would use it. Everyone used to have their own private table, right, and their own chairs. But they used to have put an extra one as a mazal tov, right? So that's what they used to do. That's what the dargash. Amrule Rabbanan Leula says Rabbanan Tula Mika Midadadaina Lotvino. Is there something that you don't until now they don't put it? And now you're going to put it? Meaning now for an avel you're going to put it? What's going on? Until now they never had it, and now you're going to put it? So Matkifla, right? Rava comes and he says, "What are you talking about, Mike? What's the question? It's like eating and drinking. Until now the avel he's not eating and drinking from other people, and now he's going to eat and drink from other people. At the end of the day, we know that an avel does not eat himself. Everyone else gives him to eat. So everyone else comes and they bring him to eat. So they were the same thing. Just like until now he was eating from his own, and he's not eating from them, and now he has to eat from the other people. So too until now, right? He didn't have this dargash, and now he's going to have this dargash. But if there's a question, this is the question. Dargash, you don't have to come and put it upside down. You leave it on the side. If you're going to tell me why don't you have to turn it around? But Tanya, we learned in a Braita, when you're going to come and turn around the mitah, not only his own bed, he has to turn around all the beds in the house. All the beds in the house, has to come and he has to turn them over. So says the Gemara, my kushia, what's the question? It's like the mitah that is designated for utensils. If it's miyuched lekelim, you don't have to turn it over. So says the Gemara, what's the question? Hakashia. Rashbag, he comes and he says, Dargash is matir karbitin vehu nofel me'elav. What happens with the Dargash is that the Avel, what he does is he turns over, right, that they're tied up with little tiny things. So he turns it over and it goes on its own. Now, if you're going to tell me it's outside the garden, karbitin, he doesn't have karbitin. Karbitin are like the little loops that they come and they hang it up. They don't have that. When Rabbi came, he said, Amar li Ahum Rabbanan, Rav Tachliv Shemod, who said to Rabbanan, Rav Tachliv is his name, that he was found in the Shuk of Gidai. The Amar is what is Dargash? Arsa de Tzala. He says it's a mitah that it's made out of skin. And it's going to be like, they come and they start tying it up on the sides. So he comes and he says, so he has to actually open up these little loops. He has to open them up. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Dargash, Kafamud Bet, 20b. Sirugo mitucho. When you tie it up, you're tying it up on the inside. Mita sirugo me'al gabay. It's on top of it. It's not from the inside within the miskeret. It's going to be on top of it. So Meitvei, they're going to ask the following question: Kle etz me'amata mekabel tuma. When does a kle etz mekabel tuma? Remember something made out of wood. When does it mekabel tuma? So he says amita v'arisa mishishufem. The bed and the crib. It's going to be when they come and they start softening it out. When they soften it out, that's what it's going to be mekabel tuma. The order of dagim. When we're talking about order of dagim, vi'i mita merugedet abala. So he says if it's going to be now that the mita is going to be on top of it, they're going to tie it up. So why do I need shifat or dag? That means when you're going to come and you're going to how do they machlik it? How do you make it smooth with the skin of fish? Right? I don't know how this works, but they used to take skin of fish and they used to make the wood smooth. So when they do that, that's when it's going to be mekabel tuma. So he says if you're going to do it on top of it, what rules out now shifat or dag? It's the same thing. He says the chavalim, right? The ropes, which they're coming and they're going inside and outside of the holes, and the dargash, he says they're going outside, right, of the misgeret, and therefore it's going to be tied up. So Amar Rabbi Yaakov Risho Belevi halachas like Rashbag, right? That basically that even the dargash you have to come and you have to turn it on the side, and says Rabbi Yaakov Barami mitash naklita te ayotzin zokva v'dayo. If you have the motot which are coming upwards, and because of that you cannot turn over the bed, so it's already enough just to turn it on the side, and it's already going to be enough. Says the Mishnah. Remember that the king, he's allowed to take out his army from Milchemet HaReshut with the Bedin of 71. Remember that a king is allowed to come and start making paths in between the houses to make his own path. Nobody could be mochen him. There's no shiur for Derech HaMelech. He can make it as wide as he wants, his path. And all the people, they come and they take the booty, but they have to give him. He takes the, meaning that imagine right now you come and they won the city beside it, and they come and they take all the booty. Right? The king comes and he's the first person that takes whatever that he wants, right, from the booty. Says the Gemara, then we already learned it once. We learned it in the previous Mishnah, and right in the Perek, right? The Mishnah Aleph, En Motzi Lemilchemet Reshut B'Din Shel Shivim Echad. We said that only you're allowed to go to the Milchemet Reshut was 71. Okay? So he says, I did Tana Kol Mili de Melech. Since we taught all the things of the king, Tana Nami Motzi Lemilchemet Reshut. We also taught them that you go out from Milchemet Reshut. So Amar Rav Yehuda Mashua says of Mashua, Kol HaOmer B'Parashat Melech, right? Melech Mutarbo. Anything which is going to be written in Parashat Melech, the Melech is going to be mutar to do lechatchila. Rav Amar, Rav comes and he says, no. The only reason why it was written these things about the king was to give them like that they should be afraid of him. Which means that really Be'emet Shmuel Hanavi said that in order that they should be afraid. Right? That means everything that's written there, about the king and everything, it's all just that people should be afraid. Ketanai, so says the Gemara, it's a machlok Tanaim. Rabbi Yosef Omer, Kol HaOmer B'Parashat HaMelech, everything which is written in Parashat HaMelech and Shemuel, HaMelech mutar linhog bo, the king could do it. Meaning like this, in the Torah, you have Parashat HaMelech, right, in Parashat Shofatim. But besides Shofatim, you also have Parashat HaMelech and Shemuel, because there in Shemuel, that's where written that Shemuel Hanavi comes and he's actually anointing a king. So for there, everything that's written there, according to the first Shita, which is Rabbi Yosef, he's allowed to do lechatchila. Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, no. Why did he say this? In order they should be afraid. That they should be afraid. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says. There were 3 mitzvot that they were commanded to go into Eretz Yisrael, to put them in a melech, and to destroy the zera of Amalek, and to build up beta bechira. Rabbi Nehorai says, he says this parasha was only given for the taromet. Right? What does that mean? Because they came and they started complaining. Meaning the Parashat HaMelech in the Torah was only just because, since the Torah already knew that we were going to complain that we wanted a king, so in the Torah I wrote down Parashat HaMelech, and therefore we know that we're going to complain later on, because there it's written. And I'm going to say that, please, we want to put a king. So that's exactly what happened. Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Yosef Omer, Zekirim Shebador Shalu, right, Kahogen Shalu. Really, Be'emet, the Zekirim in the door, they actually asked properly. They wanted a king for a good reason. Give us a king just to judge us. But you always have a me'aratzot. The me'aratzot, they were the ones that came, they were mekalkel. They made everything worse. Because it says, he says, we want to be like every other nation. Once you say, we want to be like all the other goyim, all the other nations, that's where the downfall. That's when they fall. Because we want to be like every other nation. If it was meant just to judge us, kol hakavod, that's exactly what you needed. He said, no, we want to be like all the other nations. Tanya, we went to the right. Rabbi Yosef says, you know, there were 3 mitzvot that Bnei Yisrael were commanded when they went to Eretz Yisrael. Number 1, la'amid la'hem melech, to have a king. Number 2, la'achrit zaror shel Amalek, to destroy Amalek. Number 3, livno la'hem bet ha'bechira, to build the Bet HaMikdash. Ve'eni yodea ez ha'mehen tchila, but I don't know what's the order. Which was the order? First you have to put on a melech. Ve'en kiseh la melech, right? So the kiseh of Hashem is also the melech of Yisrael. Shneimar vayesh Shlomo al kiseh Hashem le melech, that he became a king. V'adayin en yodea livnot lahem bet ha'bechira tchila, right? Or lachrit zarot. Okay, fine. But which one do I do first? Do I put zarosh shel Amalek first, or to build the bet ha'bechira? So כשהוא אומר וניח לכם מכל אויביכם והיה מקום השבחה לשם, הוא אומר לי, first you have to do להחריט זרעו של עמלק. And that's what it says by דוד המלך. ויהי כי ישב המלך דוד בביתו, השם מסביב וכתיב ויאמר מלך נתן הנביא, ראה נא אנוכי יושב בבית ארזים, right? And therefore he comes and he says that he didn't want to come and build the Bet HaMikdash until after you finish with the mitzvah of mechiyat Amalek. Amar Reshakish, says Reshakish. But Techila at the beginning, before Shlomo Melech got married to the Nashim Nochriot, to the Goyot, Malach Shlomo le'Elonim. Shlomo Melech was a king even over the upper worlds. Shneimar vayesh Shlomo al kiseh Hashem l'vasov. But afterwards, after he got married to the Nochriot, Malach al Tachtonim, he was only the Melech on the Tachtonim. Shneimar Yehu rodeh b'chol ever enam mitfisa v'adaza, mitafsach v'adaza. Rav Shmuel Chalaman tafsach b'sof ha'olam v'aza b'sof ha'olam. And Aza is the other part of the world, right? The Chalaman, one of them says no, tafsach v'aza is bad. They were right beside each other. Ushem shemalach al tafsach v'aza. So to meaning like this. Do you say, everyone looking at me? Do you say that there are the 2 places where on one side of the world and the other side of the world? That's like you're saying like the end of Russia and Alaska. So Alaska is on this part of the world, and right, the Russia is at the end of that part of the world, right, the Siberia, right, the 2 ends. Or do you say they were right beside each other? But just like they were right beside each other, it's the entire world going like this. You understand? That's the difference between them. Ulvasof, and at the end, lo malach al Yisrael levad. At the end, he was only a king over Yisrael. Not even Shneimar ani kohelet hayiti melech al Yisrael. Vasof lo malach. It was only on Yerushalayim. Shneimar divrei kohelet David Yerushalayim. Vasof. Only on his bed. שנאמר, הנה מיתתו של שלמה, ולבסוף, לא מלך אלא מקלו, only is מקל. שנאמר, זה היה חלקי מכל המליר. רב ושמואל אחד אמר למקלו, ואחד אמר לגונדו, first talit. Which means, again, that was a whole question, did when Shlomo Melech was thrown out, right? You remember the Mishnah, the Gemara Gitin, when he was thrown out of his kingdom by Ashmedai, the king of the Shedim, did he actually come back or not? So it says, Hadar or Lo Hadar, did he actually go back to become the king or not? One of them says Hadar, and one of them says Lo Hadar, he didn't go back. So Mandam Lo Hadar, Malach Ve'edyot, means that he was a Melech Ve'edyot, he was a king, but then he finished off becoming a foreigner. Meaning he was a regular Hediot, he was a regular person at the end. He was a king at the beginning, but that's it. But according to the Mandamar, he went back, he was Melech Hediot Melech. He was first the king, then he was a Melech, then he was a regular person, a commoner, and then he was a Melech. Okay, very good. 2 dots. Right? We said that the king comes and he destroys the path. We learned. So basically it goes like this. Everything goes to the Melech. Meaning everything that they won from the kings goes directly to the kings. Everything else, half goes to the king and half goes to the people. He says, I understand. If it's Otzor Melachim, it goes to the king, it makes sense. But how do you know that it goes half-half? It says in a pasuk, right? Kafalef Amudalef on the top. V'imchacheu laHashem lanagid ultzadok makish nagid letzadok. Is a hekesh between nagid and the tzadok. Tzadok HaKohen was Kohen Gadol, and nagid was the king. Mat tzadok, just like tzadok HaKohen is mechza lo mechza lechav, half to him and half to the brothers. Meaning he gets half of the lechem apanim, and the brother gets the other half. So to the king, half goes to him, and half goes to the brother. The tzadok, how do you know that tzadok HaKohen gets half of the lechem apanim? Remember, that means the Kohen Gadol is taking half the lechem apanim, which is 6, and the other 6 goes to all the rest of the Kohanim. How do you know that you do that? The Tanya was learned in right. Rabbi says, "Vaytal Aaron v'nav mechza la'Aaron u'mechza levanav." When it says "Vaytal Aaron v'nav," half goes to Aaron and half goes to Banav.